Alright, so I ordered the Tacticam. Now I ordered a couple of different things. I got a mount. So I can mount it on a pick rail. So like if I'm shooting pistol or rifle or anything at all with some sort of rail like this, I can mount my camera on there. You guys can get a first-person view of what the hell's going on. The camera itself does work okay. It took a little bit to get used to because everything's color-coded. So like your 4K will be a different color than like your 2.7K or 1080p. I don't quite understand how to zoom it in or out yet, but I'm still pretty new at this. But when you turn it on, when you first press the button, it instantly records. Now that took a bit to get used to. I like this feature, I really do. Because even with like my GoPros, and my other cameras, you'd have to power it up, and then you'd have to hit record, so you're always sitting there like, alright, come on, power up, power up. Okay, now I hit record. So like right now where I got a solid light, it's paused. Because it's in green, that means I'm shooting in 4K. So I just touch the button, it vibrates, and it's recording. It even has a microphone on it. Really kind of nice. I do like how that functionality is set up. Now, the problems. So to really play with the settings or anything, you got to get it to link up to your phone on the app. So you got to figure out how to turn the Wi-Fi on, which is difficult. You got to power it up, then you got to pause the footage, and then you got to hold the Wi-Fi button. But if you don't do it right, you're just going to change the camera modes, and you're going to wind up shooting in like 2.7 or something like that when you don't want to. I kind of feel like there should be a third button strictly for Wi-Fi to turn it on or off. Or maybe, I don't know, something. Something's got to be different with the Wi-Fi. The app, it's decent. It does what it needs to do. And again, on this mount, I suspect it's going to work just fine. You could even put it on like your bow. It's like you see a deer, you just touch the button. It's not using batteries sitting in standby like a GoPro would. It's completely off. Press the button, and as it powers up, it automatically starts recording. Totally awesome. So the second thing I got with it was this mount right here. Now this is supposed to let you shoot through a scope so you guys can see what I see. And it kind of works. Alright, I gotta give you a little bit of backstory. So there's like a scratch on the lens of my eye or something, or there's something wrong with my eye. Because when I put on glasses or I try to do it, like take a photograph of what I'm talking about, I can't. You can't see it. But basically, this is how a reticle should look. Nice, crisp, clean lines, everything symmetrical, it all looks perfectly straight. And if I'm perfectly behind the scope, that's exactly how it looks. Now if I'm slightly off, this is what my reticle looks like. Like the crosshairs will get kind of wonky. My hash marks, they won't line up perfectly straight. They'll like, come to the line and it'll be a little bit off center and it'll come like that. And then I can tell I'm not behind the scope. Now that's not an advantage because I have no margin of error. I have to be in the exact same spot, even like on my ACOG or like a red dot. If I'm not perfectly behind it and my eye's kind of going through at an angle, I don't know if like the scratch on my lens is right next to where I view, but it makes everything get all weird. This thing, I just can't seem to get my head behind it in the right place where I have that nice, clean reticle. So I think this is going to cause parallax errors. Now, I have to go out and shoot it a bunch to know for sure to see if my zero is going to shift or something like that. And in the short game, like inside of 300 yards, it's not a big deal. A parallax error is quite small. However, the whole point of that was so you guys could see what's happening on this scope with long-range shooting. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, they do have adapters, so you can basically put it on any scope you want, regardless of size. But there's two reasons why that's not going to work. Number one, because I suspect that it's giving me parallax error. If you're not familiar with what parallax error is, pretend this end is your eyeball, this is your scope, this is where your target is. Well, the scope and the target will be perfectly straight. But if you're not perfectly behind the scope and your eyeball shifts a little bit, you'll miss because of your point of view on how it goes through. And it's a big deal with a scope because with like iron sights, you have 2 points of view. So when I'm looking through the back, no matter what, if the front's lined up with the back, I have no parallax error. Get rid of the back, now I can't tell if I'm a little bit off because I'm just looking through. So, pretend you're the target, my knife isn't moving, you're not moving, but when I move my head, it looks like I'm missing the target. That's what parallax error is. And I suspect that that does give you parallax error. Now, I feel confident in that because even Kotoboy shot a video with that setup, and at certain, he'd be like, hit, hit, hit. I'll put a link in the description so you can watch it for yourself. But it'd be like, hit, 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 miss by feet, not even close. Hit, 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 miss by like feet. And I believe that's because this particular thing, when it sits on there, if it shifts a little bit, it gives you parallax error. Now, how it mounts up to the scope is pretty solid. I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. I don't know if he had an older model, or maybe he was just having an off day at the range. That's always possible. But again, I don't think it'll work. And the second reason I don't think it'll work for a high-power rifle is this scope normally has, what is it, like 3.2? I'll roll in the numbers, but it's over 3 inches of eye relief. When I pull it up to my eye, as you notice, I no longer am 3 inches from here. I'm maybe like 2 1/4, something like that. With this rifle, that'll be just fine. With my 300 PRC, no. That thing's going to come back and it's going to smash me in the face. The next problem, so that's just the problems I have on my side. The problems you're going to have on your side of viewing it is they don't have a solid way to mount the camera in here. So like when I shot this footage, I got it all lined up perfectly in the house. Everything was great, but then when I had spun over my magnification, I bumped it and it shifted. Because this does not lock into the mount solidly. Let me tighten it down real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. And they need to fix that. I don't care how. I don't care if you get rid of some of the flexibility. Alright, so right now it's completely bottomed out. I absolutely cannot tighten this more. And this can shift around. And if it shifts around, like in my video, you'll notice that all of a sudden the reticle's out of focus, and then you can't see what the hell's going on, and it's not pointed perfectly at there. There needs to be like a disrupted thread or something, so it goes in and locks into place. Yes, that would eliminate your ability to like go in all these different positions, but even if they just went with left or right with a disrupted thread, that would be totally acceptable, because then at least if I bump it, it's not going to screw it up. It actually feels a little bit mounted solid. Oh no, it's still way flexible. Just a slight bump and all of a sudden it's not pointed in the right direction. Everything's out of focus. So if I were to shoot this with like a heavy recoiling rifle, like if I were to keep wiggling this, I could actually pull it out of the mount. I just about got it out. Like I said, and that was completely maxed out. This does not tighten in here enough to where it's going to handle any type of real recoil on a rifle. If I shoot a heavy recoiling rifle, it's going to move around, it's going to slop, it's going to fall apart, you're going to lose focus of the target, it's really going to suck. So yes, like I get why they have it, so this can be turned in any position, and then you can have this in any position around the scope, so like if you have an ejection port or something like that, but it makes it useless. This needs to just lock in with a disrupted thread. Like it goes in, clicks, locks into place, and then you can either go here, or you can spin the camera around and go here. Yeah, it takes away the flexibility, like I've already said. However, it'll make it far more usable. So that is a serious problem that needs to be fixed with this setup. I honestly don't recommend buying it until they address that issue. Maybe if I were to like wrap a piece of tape or something around here to give it a little bit more girth, it'll get stuck inside the hole. I don't know, something I gotta play with. I truly feel it just needs a disrupted thread. Screw the flexibility, I just want it to work, at least on some rifles, like heavy recoiling rifles. My 243, I don't know if I'll really have a problem with it coming out because that just doesn't have recoil, but if I jumped up to like a 308 or something like that, I could see where problems may come from. So I want the mount redesigned, lock in, some sort of disrupted thread, click, and then you snug it down, making this absolutely rock solid. Ensuring my viewers can see what's going to go on and it's not going to jump out of focus or it's not going to come off again like the video. I just bumped it barely at all. So, do I recommend this product? And I'll have a link to this mount and this camera down in the description down below. The camera with like a pick rail mount, yeah, that's good to go. This is going to work very nice. I don't see any problems whatsoever. This gets more than tight enough to be able to hold it into position. The camera with the scope mount, this thing is hokey. I like the idea. It steps in the right direction, but it's not quite refined far enough to really be usable in the field. I think it'll be nothing but your bane of your existence. Because it works just good enough to where I'm not going to demand a refund or throw it away. However, it doesn't work good enough to really be enjoyable to use. I can tell already this is going to be a pain in the ass, and every time I use it I'm going to get pissed off by it, but it'll still work just good enough to where I keep using it, if that makes any sense. But the particular one I purchased was the Tactacam 5.0. Again, the camera seems to work just fine. I love the features on the camera. I wish there was a separate button for the Wi-Fi, but other than that, like, I believe the camera is good to go. Now, when they shipped it to me, they had shipped it with the wrong cord. This is not the cord it takes. It's okay, though, because all my GoPros and stuff take this cord, which is the cord it does take. So you may wind up having to buy a second cord. Not a big deal. Anyway, I hope this video had helped you out if you're thinking about purchasing the Tactacam. It'll work fine on everything. I would probably wait till they come out with some sort of next generation mount and camera that interfaces with that mount, because this will work on like a 223 or maybe like a 243. You start climbing up in the calibers, you're going to have a serious problem. Anyway, if you like to help support the channel, got my Patreon right there. I also have affiliate links in the description down below. I'll even have links for this. Even if you don't buy exactly what that link is for, just clicking on that link and doing the Amazon shopping you're going to do anyway. I had a little kickback for it because you came there off my channel. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And right there is my very first mistake. It's not the action I wanted, but it's the action I can get.
Oh, that's real good.
My house had got broken into. It's not the action I wanted, but it's the action I can get.
What a guy.